Welcome back to episode 5 of the Fiero Project with Jen with one N, Goss. Hi, Jen.
Hi, how's it going, Jesse?
Good, good, good. So, I've been trying to get you on here for like months, and schedules haven't lined up. And we were going to get Dayton on here, but he didn't show up. I think he's probably working and he doesn't understand how time zones work. And so now that the 40th has been kind of announced, well, not just announced, but the site is up. I wanted to definitely get one going here and get you on and talk about it a little bit. So, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So, I always ask some of the general questions because I think learning about people in the Fiero community is super important, and the more we know about each other and our history with these cars, the more we can connect at a friend level and help each other out on the forums. So, first of all, what got you into these cars? I think you have kind of a unique story.
My history with Fiero goes all the way back to 1985 when my dad pulled out in front of our house with his brand new 1985 GT that he had won in the Mac Again Back Again sweepstakes. He actually had won a 1984 model in November of 1984. Every time you used your Mac card, which was a brand of ATM card, you were entered to win. And at that time in his life, newly moved into a subdivision. He already had a 1962 Corvette. He had two young kids. I was 4. My sister was 1 at the time. And my mom said, "You don't need another two-seater," even though he was fascinated with the Fiero. His brother worked for GM, and so he had kind of got some inside information about it. And I think my mom felt bad because I remember as a child going to the bank every day. She would like run errands, and I was little, not in school yet. I'd go with her, and she would stop at this bank and pull out like $5. And at the time, I didn't understand. I really didn't understand that machines just gave you money. And one day, my dad got a call that they had won the car, and he thought someone was playing a joke on them. So he hung up, and they called him back a few times, and he finally believed it. And then he spent a little bit of money out of pocket, around $2,000, I think, to upgrade it to the 85 GT because he had known through his brother that this was coming out. And so when he came home with the car, I was a bit infatuated with Knight Rider. I thought it was the Knight Rider car. Couldn't understand why it wouldn't talk to me. And it was such love at first sight that I even famously told my sister that she could have Dad's 1962 Corvette when he passed, as long as I could have the Fiero. Spoiler alert, both cars are now in my garage. Unfortunately, I lost my dad in the summer of 2020. But growing up, the Fiero was always a special car. It was the first car my dad had ever had from new, and he took very good care of it. He drove it every day to his job at a nearby steel company. And I can still remember the distinctive whine of the 2.8 downshifting through the 4-speed Muncie as he would pull into our development. And around the time that I started driving, the car only had about 48,000 miles on it. And it was a privilege to be able to drive the car by myself. I certainly wasn't driving the Corvette by myself, but I was allowed occasionally to take the Fiero out. In fact, it was the first car I ever drove solo without an adult with me. And I actually locked myself out of the car when I stopped by the mall without permission to buy the new Beatles box set. So I got in a little bit of trouble for that. I was only supposed to go to the parts store, but the mall happened to be nearby. I always just had this affinity for this little black car. He kept it in immaculate condition. And the summer after I graduated high school, actually, it was the summer after my freshman year of college, I started running around with a crowd of guys that were really into cars. My Dodge Omni just didn't keep up, so I frequently asked to borrow the Fiero. And by that time, I was working and was going to college, and I had a little bit of money. So I talked my dad into letting me upgrade. And Eagle Talons, Mitsubishi Eclipses were the thing back then. Really wanted one, but my father told me he would never work on foreign junk. And he said, well, you just helped me put a clutch in my Fiero. Why don't you consider looking for a Fiero? Because Camaros and Firebirds aren't really in your budget. And so right around that time, he took me over to his friend Henry Kowalski's house. Henry had a fastback, a red 86 GT. I'd never seen a fastback up close before, fell in love with the styling, and really fell in love with the 383 stroker with the 200 shot bottle that Henry had. And he took me for a ride in the car. And so I was hooked. My dream was to get a fastback and throw a V8 in it.
Of course.
Of course, I had a college, why not? College kid budget. But silver 88 GT happened to pop up in the area. We went and looked at it. It needed a clutch, and of course, it had about 50,000 miles on it, so that was kind of the thing. But it was a little over my price range, so my dad and I attempted to talk them down. It had just gone on the market. They said no, and to call them back in 2 weeks. And so my dad went to Canada. I went to the beach. And my dad, when he came home, from Canada, said that he called the person who had the car, and unfortunately they had sold it to some kid. And I was devastated. I had been looking in the meantime for more affordably priced fastbacks, couldn't find anything even remotely close to the silver car. At that time, I had no idea just how rare a silver 88 GT was. And when I got home from the beach, the next day was my parents' wedding anniversary, and I borrowed the Fiero and went over to a friend's and got a call from my dad yelling, hurry up, I need the car, bring it home immediately. And so I went home thinking I was in trouble for borrowing the car, even though my mom had given me permission. And when I went to pull it in the garage, the door wouldn't open. The opener wasn't working. So I got out of the car. I was kind of in a bad mood. My friends had followed me to pick me up. And all of a sudden, the garage door opened manually, and inside the garage sat the silver 88 GT. And my dad stood there with the keys, and he said, congrats, some kid, you bought the car. He was a joint signer on my bank account,
Oh,
pulled the
that
money
is
out that
awesome.
afternoon, and bought the car.
That
So
is
that was
the
my
greatest first car story. I love that.
yeah. Yeah, so that was my first Fiero. I still have it, and I now have the black 85 GT as well. They're both parked in my garage. And once I did find out how rare it was, and I hooked up with Fred Bartemeyer at a FOCOA show, he convinced me not to modify it. Thank you, Fred. And so after picking up an 86 Coupe as a daily driver, I eventually ended up with the car that's now known as the Blue Demon, which is slightly modified. It only took me
Slightly.
about 23 years to get that V8, but it did
Slightly
happen.
modified. Slightly. It's got a good modification. It's got a really
Yeah.
good modification. I've got a buddy that's getting an LS4 in Mira right now down in Kansas City, and where Mira is getting an LS4 and an F23, so we're pretty excited to see that thing finish up. But
Yeah.
anyways, that's an awesome story. I did not know that. I'm really glad that you shared that because that is just awesome. So, well, at this point, we typically talk about any project Fieros or anything you got going on. But one thing that if anyone pays attention to any Facebook page, they know that you are one of the people spearheading, if not the main person spearheading the 40th anniversary celebration. So,
That is
um,
true.
talking about the projects. So tell us all the secrets, all the little details about the 40th anniversary, and why everyone should go, including myself.
I mean, everyone should go because the team, I cannot take all the credit by a long shot, but the team has put in hundreds of hours. I really don't even want to think about calculating how many hours of work to make this the best anniversary event yet. While 40 may not be a significant anniversary, in the wider world, it is a particularly important anniversary for us in the Fiero community because many of the individuals that were involved in the Fiero project, from floor plant employees all the way up through the engineers and the members of the Pontiac Motorsports team, they're not young. They're not young people. We were really fortunate to get them to the 35th anniversary show. But some of them, this could potentially be the last time that they're going to make it out to an anniversary event. So we wanted to really pull out all the stops and make this event special. We're taking you back to Pontiac, Michigan, so you can return to the birthplace of your Fiero. Pontiac, like the Detroit metro area, has gone through some tough times, and some changes in landscape, and certainly the automotive industry itself has gone through many changes. But we're really excited about some of the rebirth of the Pontiac area that we're going to include in this particular event. And also the opportunity to, I think what we can say, kick off the next generation of Fiero enthusiasm. Looking to welcome, enthusiasts of all ages. We know there's people coming from all around the world. We're going to have European Fiero enthusiasts from the Caribbean. So really looking forward to them attending the event. Unfortunately, without their cars, because that's kind of a tough trip to make. But we are anticipating having enthusiasts from North America attend with and without their cars. So we're really, really excited about the event as a whole.
That sounds awesome. So people from all over the world. I mean, there should be some people with some extra Fieros out there that can, hook them up so they can drive the concourse or whatever. Speaking of the
Yeah.
concourse, so what are some of the events? So I looked at the registration page is live now. I looked at the page when it was in beta mode a little bit, and it looks like there's all kinds of extra events that a lot of people may not know about. One of the ones I'm really interested in talking about is the private car collection. What is that?
Well, I can't go into too much detail about that particular event yet, but that's for our guests that arrive on Wednesday. We have had numerous conversations with one very notable collection that we are hoping will give us the opportunity, as long as they are in the area that week, which we're hoping they will be, to tour that collection and get to see some really special cars, including one very special Fiero. But we also, thanks to the wonderful network that we have available to us through the Pontiac Transportation Museum, one of our supporting sponsors, have access to some other really interesting and cool collections. So if option one doesn't work out, option two certainly isn't going to be a disappointment. So we'll be releasing details of that, and we'll definitely let you know specifically as we find that out.
That's going to be great. I mean, it looks like it's jam packed. So, tell me about the concourse drive.
Oh
What's some
gosh.
more stuff about that?
That is definitely going to go down as one of the best emails that I ever received in my entire life. For those of you that are listening that are not familiar with the M1 Concourse, which Fiero Focus just did a great article on it that's going to be running in several other Fiero newsletters in upcoming months throughout the country. The M1 Concourse is part of that rebirth of Pontiac that I mentioned. It is built on the site of a former bus and truck manufacturer, Pontiac Bus and Truck Manufacturing Facility. And it is a really cool concept. You, as an owner, can buy into a garage shell that you can then outfit in whatever manner you would like. I think it's about 40 feet wide and 60 to 80 feet long, and it has a mezzanine. And then you can outfit it with lifts or whatever you'd like to be able to work on your cars that you keep in that garage. It's not a residential location. It's strictly a garage for your enjoyment, although some of these garages that we've seen are incredible, $1 million outfittings. And then you also basically join a country club of the M1 Concourse, which gives you access to their track. It gives you access to their drift pad. They have an event facility. They're putting in a restaurant. Rumor has it eventually there's going to be a go-kart track, although unfortunately that's not going to be ready for July. We were really hoping. This is a big place, and it's a top dollar facility. And it's not something probably that the average Fiero owner would normally partake in. And so we did a site tour there in October of 2020, again, through our contacts at the Pontiac Transportation Museum. They introduced us to the staff that was there at the time. We did a facility tour and got to see some of the garages, and were absolutely blown away because the brand new C8 Corvette was lapping at the time. And many of us had not yet seen a C8 in person. And just to hear it wind up out on that track was incredible. And so, I walked out of there that day, and the event manager at the time gave us about a $25,000 to $30,000 price tag. We were talking about holding a track event there and holding a show there eventually, because the facility center was, the event center was still under construction. And so we were talking about holding the car show part of it there as well. And I walked out of there and I said, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to figure out how we can do this. And everybody looked at me like I was crazy. We went back to the Pontiac Transportation Museum, had a meeting, and toured the facility as well. And, kind of the general consensus is, where are you going to come up with $25,000? And, I had some doubts, but I also, as we could say in honor of MLK week this week, I had a dream. And so did several of us to make this happen. And so we went forward and had some conversations, and realized about a year into the process that the event center really wasn't going to be big enough. There wasn't a big enough footprint to fit many cars inside the building. And then additional expenses would have to be incurred with tents and some other things. So we shifted gears, no pun intended, and decided to go back to holding the show part of it at the hotel. We figured out a way to actually get cars in the hotel ballroom, as that was very popular at the 30th and 35th. And we also, figured that if worse came to worse, and not worse because it's a lesser facility, but we would have the track day at Waterford Hills, which is a very challenging but good drivable track, and a track that really, I think, was enjoyed at the 20th and 25th anniversary events. And so knowing that the price tag on M1 was down to about $15,000, but still very high, we basically wrote him a Dear John letter and said, hey, we'd love to have the event there, but it's just really probably not going to be in the budget because no major sponsors had stepped forward. And like I said, in that email that I'll never forget, I got an email late one night on a Saturday, and it was from the event manager. It was last December, December of 2021. And he said, well, I completely understand your budgetary concerns, but I'd like to make this event happen. And I've spoken to Tim McGrain, who's the CEO of M1 Concourse, and we'd like to be your presenting sponsors. And we're going to donate the use of the track because we feel that having the Fieros come back to Pontiac is a critical thing for the automotive hobby. I read the email about 4 times. It was worded a little uniquely. I walked downstairs, I showed it to Matt. I said, am I reading this correctly? And he read it about 4 or 5 times, and he said, I think so. And we sent it to Fred, and then the 3 of us got on the phone. And I wrote back to Bruce, the event manager, and I said, am I understanding your email correctly? And he said, you are. And sure enough, they made the dream come true. And I'm forever grateful to Tim and his staff for coming forward and being the presenting sponsors and making this track day happen, because it's going to be unbelievable. The facility is just a sight to behold. We are going to be doing performance laps, which will be small groups led by a pace car. The pace car aspect of it is, M1 safety requirement, but it will be broken down by ability level. So, if you've got the ability to go, as fast as possible around that track safely, that opportunity, will be provided. And then, they'll be paced appropriately for the other levels. And then we're also going to do parade laps, for the average driver who just wants to have the experience of driving on a track. We're going to be utilizing pace car number 3 that is in Fred Bartemeyer's collection to do some pacing and maybe some other surprises as well. And so we're going to be able to open this opportunity up to a wider audience than just our performance drivers.
I will take your V8 car. I will put myself through that. And speaking of people going wild on the track, Dayton just tried to get into the room, so I'm going to let him in.
All right.
We're
All right.
recording here. He knows we're recording, so he should behave. But let's see. There he is. Dayton, can you hear us? Still says you're connecting to audio there. But while he can't talk, that's okay. So
we're lucky if he can't talk, right?
we were just discussing the performance laps at the M1 concourse, and we have decided amongst us that Purple Rain will be driven by me, and the Blue Demon will also be driven by me, and you guys can watch very happily while I drive, and
Right.
so
Well, I mean, if anybody knows about my, again, no pun intended, track record from the 20th, the car might be safer in your hands. I will only drive in a group with Rob Bartlett behind me. We've had our share of track fun before.
It's okay. Rob Bartlett will be behind everybody. That's fine.
True. He'll be Flintstoning his car because the engine's not done, right?
So Dayton, welcome. I understand that the public school system has failed you with time zones.
Oh, dude, I totally just for some reason thought that Jen was like an hour ahead, but she was the time zone. I was like, I can make 6:30, but yeah, anyway, I'm retarded.
No, it's okay. We know. So, so we were talking about the M1 concourse, and she just talked about the performance laps. Now you said that there are going to be some cars in the hotel. Is that something that's open that people can apply for, or how does that work?
So project cars probably won't be parked in the ballroom. So we're going to have to work on that heap behind you, Dayton. Which that heap, by the way, has been in my garage too. I think looked a little better at the time.
It's in many pieces.
It's in sound good.
It's the true ship of Athesias.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it is. But yeah, no, Jesse, I'm glad you asked about that. So the show day is going to be Saturday, and we are going to be spread out throughout the outdoor parking lot of the Marriott, the Auburn Hills Marriott. We're going to have cars parked by class. Non-judge cars will have their parking area. We're going to have a vendor area and swap meet area. And then we also have the opportunity to fit about 30 cars inside the hotel. And, we give priority for these parking spots to our prototypes and historics that, for various reasons don't typically see much time outside. But there are available spaces for Fiero owners as well to register and apply for. And what'll happen is once we get closer to the date of the show, we'll kind of take a look at what we have, who's applied, and make some decisions, on allotting those spaces to a variety of cars, both stock and modified, and those that fall in between. And some of the decisions are going to be based on car histories. So if you have a really interesting story, like your car was once a dynamic show car that fell into disrepair in Virginia Beach, and made it way through New York to Minnesota, who knows? It might be a compelling story. Some might be associated with specific vendors, and that's why they'll be placed inside. And so there's a few different things that we'll be looking at, but anybody that's interested, I certainly encourage them to inquire about it. And we're going to do our best to make it as possible as we can. One downside of the indoor parking, though, is going to be limited access. Because of the way that we're going to have to load the cars through a loading dock and a ramp. It's not going to be like at the 35th where there was easy in and easy out. So if you're somebody that's going to want to have access to your car to do the M1 Concourse event, take it into Pontiac on Fiero Day that Thursday, we're hoping to have that designated as Fiero Day in the city of Pontiac. Indoor parking may not be worth the money because you're going to get one load in, one load out. And so if you're going to do all the events on Friday, you're going to have to schedule time Friday night to get your car into that ballroom. It's going to have to be cleaned before it gets in there. So for some people, it just may not be worth the hassle, and that's okay too. I mean, there's going to be great parking spots all over the venue. So the show itself is going to have a couple different options for participation. I don't know if you want me to talk about those at all, but happy to share on those as well.
Well, I know my car is used to being on a forklift since I had a forklift out of a junkyard onto a flatbed, so it shouldn't be any problem getting it in the ballroom. And then we can hook a rope up to Dayton's purple pile and get it in there too. So
you think you're gonna pull this thing?
Yeah, trust me, I have tried to both push and pull that car, and I can tell you, that is probably not an exaggeration.
All I wrote that on my tag for registration.
Yeah, all the Bondo, that is one heavy car. Trust me.
Yeah.
9,000 pounds. I can't wait for you to get it on a scale.
Yeah, and you know what?
I'm gonna put it on the truck stop scale.
I think we may have a scale that is coming to the 40th. I have to double check my notes, but I'm fairly certain that Chris Coulter reached out to me about bringing a scale that KC Fogg was going to sponsor a Weigh Your Fiero contest. And Trenton Vince Hartman's going to be sponsoring a dyno. So there's going to be some really cool things to see and do.
Well, if there's a weight contest, I need to let everybody know that they're going to need to start putting like concrete in the back of their car, because I will live up to this license plate. All right. I am not scared.
My money's on you. My money is on you.
I don't know if the roads in Michigan right now are certified for that vehicle.
Probably not in the wintertime, especially.
So, I want to take a moment. One of the things I've noticed, Jen, that you've worked very hard at, and a lot of people have, are the auctions every month.
Yes.
So, do you have an auction going currently? What's up right now?
So the auction idea was generated because whether or not members of the community realize it, it's going to be pricey to put this event on, even with a really generous sponsorship of M1. There are a lot of costs to put an event of this caliber on, from goodie bags to awards to, paying the fees for all of the space inside the hotel, helping, some of our guest speakers get there, insurance, track insurance, all of those items. It's pricey. And so we came up with the auctions, for a twofold purpose. One, to raise money for the event, to keep things affordable. Registration, for example, is only $40, which is a pretty good deal for an event of this caliber. And then other ticket prices are pretty much at cost for the event. And also to give the Fiero community an opportunity to get their hands on some pretty cool opportunities and items. For example, Jesse, you donated the beautiful powder-coated manifold and valve covers, which I know are really sought after. And so this month's auction is it's priceless. It's the UAW Fiero Year's book that was given to the plan employees. It wasn't available for general purchase. This particular copy was donated by Knife, Northern Illinois Fiero Enthusiasts, one of the Midwest Fiero Club's member clubs. And, it's already up to $400. And I wouldn't be surprised if it goes for double that, because it's just something you can't obtain. I've been hinting, to everyone in my life that I need a copy for my next birthday. But truthfully, I've been looking for one and they're just not out there. So if you're interested in bidding on it, it's at bit.ly /MWFC40 is the auction site.
And I'll post a link to it on the post. I was happy to donate to it. I know it's I know it's an expensive task, and even if I don't come to the 40th, it'll be well worth the donation to take care of it, Jen.
Yeah, I know you're going to be there though, because I've got you signed up for like 5 volunteer jobs already. So,
So now you've had a lot of help with the 40th as well. Is there anyone you want to kind of shout out, thank? I know Fred's involved. I know there's a bunch of people involved. It's, it's something like this doesn't get put on super easily. So,
no, no, it really doesn't. I mean, and I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't give the first shout out to Matt, because he, lives with this every day, and has really been very flexible with the amounts of time that it takes in the evenings to, be on calls with various entities that are helping to make this show happen. And he himself too is heading up the classifications for the show, which is a really big undertaking, because we want to balance, trends in the community and also honor preservation and the concept of these being affordable cars. And so, creating a class structure that, allows for fair competition is a pretty big undertaking that he has so graciously done. Fred Bartemeyer, of course, is the president of the Midwest Fiero Clubs, and really, I don't think there's anybody in the world more knowledgeable about the Fiero and the Fiero community than Fred. And he too is selflessly given a lot of time. I am sure that I am going to forget someone, but we've got the Midwest Fiero Clubs is a non-geographical region of the AACA, and it's currently comprised of 8 member clubs. So we have the Mid-Atlantic Fiero Owners Association, of which I'm president. Our treasurer, Joe Aponic, is also a member of MFOA. We, of course, have Fred's Heartland Fiero Club, and Dan and Lisa Theroff are both helping various aspects of the show as well from that organization. We have the Northern Illinois Fiero Enthusiasts, which has been running some great press pieces and featuring content on their podcast, the Fiero Focus podcast. Mike Croyer from Knife has put together an absolutely incredible sponsorship booklet and pack. Has been working really hard, although we still need sponsors. To anyone who's listening, any individual, large or small entity can be a sponsor. We need donations of all kinds. And Jim Hallman, of course, has been working to put together our schedule. Scott Campbell is our liaison with the hotel. We've got our friends up in Minnesota, Kev and Rob and Jason Foley, who have been performing various tasks towards the show. Jason, of course, working on social media. Christina Kahn up in Michigan is going to be heading up registration with her mom, Laura. And we've got Jim Nye and Lou and Sue Oles on the ground in Michigan as well that are helping. We've got Tom Schmidt out of Wisconsin, along with Sadie Kaminsky, who's up there. We've got, gosh, I'm trying to think, we've got Mid-America Fieros. They're going to be putting together a memorial display of Fiero members that we've lost through the years and want to commemorate and remember at the show. As I mentioned, Casey Fogg is going to do the Weigh Your Fiero contest. And yeah, I know I'm blanking on people.
Well, and there's just no way, and it's something this size that you wouldn't be able to. I mean, it's impossible to people involved.
But the MVP of my week is Cody Klein from Pennsylvania, who put together our website. Cody is not a web designer by trade. He does appraisals and assessments for an insurance company. And he's, really just a true car guy, but he saw that we had a need, and he has worked so hard the past couple months to get this website going. And I just cannot thank him enough. Really has been an absolutely tremendous gift. Oh, and Eric Schneck and Paul Hassler are our track date coordinators, and they've also been really putting together just an absolutely phenomenal program. And then all of them have spouses as well that are really, either not complaining too much about that donation of time, or are also helping in a variety of different ways. So this is just a glimpse at the crew, but it's a big crew. And Shane Parsons has stepped up. He's going to be helping us with the volunteers. And every individual, I hope, coming to the show will consider volunteering just 2 hours of their time. If somebody will volunteer 2 hours of their time to help with the task throughout the event, or if they're willing to help by joining a judging team, we'll be providing all the training to judges. It's going to help the event go smoothly, and might allow me to like sit down for 5 minutes and maybe drink a glass of beer during the event. But
Zima. Since we're
yeah,
in like
Zima. Yes,
80s 90s
yes.
thing, we got to have a Zima is the thing.
Have found some in his fridge recently, so he can
Right.
bring them.
Dayton probably doesn't know what that is, but maybe he's been drinking since he was 5.
Nope.
I don't know. So I want to. We're gonna kind of come up to a close here soon. I just want to take a moment and say thank you on behalf of everyone that I know that's involved with these cars. I have never had one negative thing said about you to me by anyone that actually mattered. And I will say, I know you and your husband dedicate massive amounts of time to this hobby, to this lifestyle. And I don't know how you guys do it and keep your sanity. I mean, you have a kid, and you have all kinds of stuff, and you've got 47 Fieros and Corvettes and all kinds of things, and horses, which are like kids on themselves. So thank you for dedicating so many times and resources that I can't say how much, at least I appreciate it. Dayton doesn't, but I do.
I definitely do. The only thing I can say negative is there was a time where she stole a car from me, but she helped me get this one. So it's okay. We're even.
Ironically, I told Jesse that story before you logged on, but I think that could be a story for a future podcast.
That I think we're going to have to talk. We're going to have to dig into that one. So is there anything other events or anything you want us to know about?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to mention 2 additional things, and one is, well, first and foremost, to stay posted at the www.fiero40th.com website, because as we're fine-tuning details on the event, it'll be available there. And anybody that has registered, if we add that Wednesday night event, you'll get notification about that. So we'll be keeping in touch with everyone. We'll be sending out to everyone who's registering for the judged option. We're going to be sending out a classification form, and I really, really strongly encourage everybody to consider getting their car judged, regardless of where you're at. You can learn a lot about your car and things that you can improve on, through the judging process. The judging process isn't meant to be punitive; it's meant to be helpful. And the judges are all going to be, Fiero people. They're going to be Fiero led by, Fiero individuals in the community. And you don't need an extensive amount of mechanical knowledge to be a part of a judging team. So anybody who comes to the event that wants to participate, should strongly encourage it. It's the same price to enter the show to get your car judged or not. So why not, get some feedback and learn about the car.
Get a project.
And a project list. I mean, truthfully, it's helped me through the years. And the other thing I wanted to mention is we didn't really touch upon Thursday. Thursday, we're going to start off the morning with some behind-the-scenes tours of the Pontiac Transportation Museum, another up-and-coming feature of Pontiac, Michigan. It celebrates the Pontiac brand, but also all things automotive in Pontiac, and it's really a neat facility that they've been working very hard on over the past few years, and the staff there, who is largely all volunteers, provided a tremendous amount of support for us and for our event. And then you'll have the option of participating in a scavenger hunt over a 36-hour period that will reconvene back there Friday night for a barbecue. And scavenger hunt winners will be announced. And we're going to have a special auction at that barbecue, in addition to the other auctions that we'll have throughout the event. And then Thursday night, we have linked up with a absolutely incredible facility in downtown Pontiac called the Crowfoot. It's an event facility. They do a lot of music, concerts, and other productions. They also hold major events there for area manufacturers. And we're going to do an afternoon and evening with speakers. And we're going to have speakers from all aspects of the Fiero Project experience. We're going to have individuals who were part of the conception of the Fiero all the way up through members of the Pontiac performance team. And we're also going to have special on-street parking and display there. The town of Pontiac was welcoming us with open arms. There's breweries and amazing restaurants in the area for lunch and dinner. And so it's going to be really fantastic. And then on Saturday as well, during the show day, we're going to have a Pontiac Fiero plant employee reunion, which is really the thing I'm probably the most excited for. To just have the ability to bring those people who made our little cars to the show and show them, you know, what these cars mean to us and how far they've grown or been preserved through the years is something I'm really looking forward to. So put the dates on your calendar, July 12th to the 16th, 2023. You've got 5 months and a handful of days to make it happen, but we're going to make sure.
Don't remind me.
Hey, I've got my own projects, buddy. The clock is ticking.
We have Fieros. We all have projects.
yeah, for sure. I mean, at least the engine's in one of yours. I can't say the same for 2 of our projects right now. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, it's a place to be, and do whatever you can to get there, because I guarantee you will have a good time.
That it sounds amazing. We'll see if I can make it. I know you're gonna send Dayton to get me if I don't. So, Dayton, do you have anything
I'm literally filling the oil right now. I am still trying to get this thing done. Okay?
Well, hold up. So you started it the other day, and you're already filling it with oil again.
No, so this is one of those long-term projects where what happens is I started with the oil that was in the engine, and then I do an oil change last night, and then realized that the 2 jugs of oil that I got for this thing 2 years ago had been used by like other vehicles that I have. So it just sat here with no oil for a whole like 2 days. So now I'm putting oil in it.
All right.
Anything to add? Emotional outbursts? Yeah. Anything to add? Emotional outbursts or Daytonisms to add to this before we finish up? No. Okay. Thank you for going to public schools.
I don't got nothing.
One thing.
I was a public school teacher for 20 years.
Well, I went to public school too, but I at least know what time zones are. So one of the
Jen was the one that taught me. She was my teacher. So blame this on her.
So one of the things I typically finish each podcast with is to talk about one of my favorite sites in the 90s and early 2000s was Fiero Secrets. A lot of people don't know about that site, that link site that was there, but there was so much great information on there, and I feel a lot of it has just been lost. Jen, any little Fiero secrets, tips, or tricks that you have for people that are getting into this or working on cars and are struggling with certain things?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's a secret to ask for help because the community is made up of great people that are always willing to help you. But, you know, gosh, a tip or trick through the years, clean your car frequently, because it's a lot harder to get it clean on show day if you don't, you know, periodically clean it along the way. My dad was always kind of anal about keeping vehicles clean, and I definitely think he was on to something. You know, people look at the Blue Demon and say, gosh, it's like so clean, it must never be driven. And that's not the case. It's driven, but it is also laboriously cleaned. I don't know that you all need to go to that extent, but I do work very hard to keep my cars clean. And it's also great for maintenance because it helps you catch things before they become problems. If if your engine bay is clean, you're going to see a leak a lot sooner than if it's constantly dirty. So that's, I guess, my little secret.
Yeah. Dayton, anything to add? You had a great post the other day about working on Fieros and people pulling projects out and getting ready for the 40th.
I've seen a lot of posts lately about just more people bringing Fieros home, especially just younger kids, 16, 17, 18. And then I realized how I've aged in the few years. I'm not quite 30 yet, but still, like I remember when I was that 16, 17, and since then we've all seen too many Fieros burn up. So I mean, just little things like, you know, the blower motor resistor, and just clean things like Jen said, make sure everything's clean, because it's a lot easier to see something messed up, you know. And you start smelling weird smells, pull over. Like it's an old car, there's going to be weird stuff you need to figure out. So they're not any different than any other old car in most aspects, but just don't think that they're a good, you know, car to just jump and drive without any sort of maintenance, because sort of got like 90% of these things have not had maintenance in their life, and that's why they all keep, you know, messing up. So, but that's just my little tidbit. I mean, don't do a North Star; it's not worth it. It sucks.
LS4.
Do an LS. Do what Jen did, because
Three
what I
four
did,
dual cam.
something. The V6 North Star. Yeah, go with that one. Yeah.
If
I
I
mean,
if I had to say something to the people that are pulling cars out that have been sitting, um, I know people think it's just a fuel pump. It's not just a fuel pump. It's your fuel pump, your fuel filter, your fuel pressure regulator, and your injectors. I promise you, your injectors are not right. And I see engines burn up all the time because you got a couple of injectors aren't quite right. So, with that, we'll wrap this up. Jen, thank you so much for joining. I know we're out of time here. Dayton, thanks for getting on, and we'll see you guys again here soon with another episode.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Take care,
Bye.
guys.
See you at the
Bye.
40th.
Adios.
See you at the